Now, you have called Tesla the Apple of automakers. So is this a fair comparison as Tesla continues to struggle to become more profitable and really hit these Model 3 targets that they've set?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're trying to be profitable right now. I think they're trying to grow as fast as possible, and I think the Apple analogy couldn't be more true. I think this is like the iPhone in 2006 with the Model 3. We're at the cusp of seeing a major disruption. I think the auto industry is changing in two ways. Cars are going electric and autonomous, and Tesla's leading that revolution. You know, it's not cheap to build out all these factories and scale production, but I actually think they're doing a really good job, and the Model 3 is actually starting to scale here in the early parts of 2018.
A lot of people have pushed back, though, that Elon Musk has not been historically able to hit some of these production targets. What is your investment strategy and time horizon for this particular stock?
Super long term. I wish I could hold Tesla for like the next 10 or 15 years. And I think it's really funny when people like harp on the fact that they're missing sales projections. If you take a step back to 2014 when they opened the Gigafactory, they announced that they had intended to build 500,000 cars by 2020. Then in 2016, about a month or two after the Model 3 was unveiled, they had a massive, like crazy amount of demand. They moved up their target for 500,000 cars to 2018. And now they're actually, although it's looking like they probably won't hit that and they're still a little behind schedule, Elon Musk has said they're still on track to deliver 1 million cars by 2020. So, you know, I've been involved with Tesla since 2012, and so I actually think they're ahead of their initial targets by a factor of 2 if you think they can hit 1 million cars by 2020. And so I think that's just a really overlooked fact. You know, in the near term, they're definitely missing the targets, but in the longer term, they're exceeding what they initially targeted.
You know, it's originally, I mean, it's really interesting what they said on the most recent earnings call as well. Elon, of course, saying that our goal is to productize the factory itself. So what does he exactly mean by that from what you're garnering? Because what we've seen for the factory thus far is it hasn't been able to meet these efficiencies that they have been setting forward, especially for the Model 3, even though they do tout the fact that they can put a product into market faster than some of their competitors, whether that's Ford, whether that's Toyota. They can put that into market much faster because of the factory. So who is a partner, who is a customer for the factory if they productize that?
I mean, I think Tesla is their own kind of customer, and they basically are kind of explaining that because they want to build a ton of factories. Like Elon Musk has said it would require 100 gigafactories to fully transition the world to renewable energy. So Tesla's not going to build all of those, but they're probably going to build 10 or 20 in the long term. So they want to get nailed down this first design. And I think it's also important to realize like this was just a pile of sand in the desert 4 years ago. Now it's like one of the world's most advanced manufacturing facilities on the entire planet, like built with robots. They did that from the ground up with no experience before. So yeah, there's some learning pains going along with it, but I really think the problem with Tesla is they haven't communicated well, because if you really think about what they've accomplished in such a short period of time, like they are moving faster than every other automaker, and I think the progress is really impressive.
How much do you think better communication would change the stock price?
That is something I struggle with personally a lot, because although like I'm always taking their targets with a grain of salt and everyone jokes about how Elon Musk is always late, like they are able to convince shareholders that they are progressing, and they are able to use that like sort of trust to raise capital at very high levels. You know, Tesla only dilutes a very minimal amount given how much their revenue per share is compounding. So I think they're actually doing a phenomenal job balancing telling the story, raising money from the capital markets. So I think it's interesting to see how the stock market kind of brushes off these missed targets and is really looking at the longer term story, I think.
Does Tesla have enough of Musk's attention at this point? I mean, he's got so many other projects, whether it's the Boring Company, whether it is SpaceX. Do they have enough attention to continue powering the company forward?
I think so. I mean, as long as they keep executing, I think Musk is giving them enough attention. I mean, I truly think he is like a once-in-a-generation kind of entrepreneur. I mean, he's a really special person. What he's done with SpaceX, the rocket launch, I mean, I'm sure you guys saw like those 2 rockets land simultaneously.
Yeah.
Like he's made rocket technology reusable. This is the biggest breakthrough in all of, like NASA couldn't do this. Boeing and Lockheed Martin said it was impossible. I mean, this guy's doing incredible stuff and creating history. And so, yeah, he has like 3 companies he's running at the same time, but I just think he's a special entrepreneur.
Have you ridden or driven in any of these Teslas?
Yes, I'm actually 25, or I just turned 25, so I couldn't test drive a Tesla before then, but I convinced my dad to do it with me so I could like experience it, and I was blown away. Like I go to the Tesla store in Chelsea all the time to check on the Model 3. I think it's a beautiful car. Like there's no other auto brand where like my friends visit to the city and I take them to the Tesla store. Like what other car company would you do that to? I don't know, I can't.
The only concern that people have had is even with the mass market Model 3 that it still is catering toward a higher end clientele, or at least those who the buyers are. And so how successful do you think Tesla will be able to pivot into a more mainstream mass market model?
I think it will be a mainstream mass market model because if you take into account the fuel savings by charging with electric car, the Model 3 is actually very comparable in lifetime cost to a Toyota Camry, which is a massive market. But even so, the small to medium-sized luxury sedan market in the US is about 850,000 cars per year. If the Model 3 takes the same amount of market share as the Model S did in the large luxury sedan market, that would be 250,000 Model 3s in the US per year alone. Globally, I think that translates to somewhere around 500 to 700,000, which is something Elon Musk has confirmed. So, I don't know if you would call that a mass market car or not, but that is enough sales to substantially increase Tesla's share price.
Earlier this week, we heard the news about a cybersecurity concern, especially one that was discovered where cryptocurrency miners were actually using the systems and the servers to be able to mine cryptocurrency. For Tesla, how much of a concern should cybersecurity be? How much of a concern should they have that they don't impact the stock price if they have more instances, perhaps, where they are vulnerable? And that is exposed to so many analysts that are really looking at the stock and weighing that with the future performance for the company.
Yeah, and definitely not a good sign. I actually need to look into that hack more to really get some good research going. But I mean, as cars become more connected, this is going to become a bigger risk for every auto company. I think cybersecurity should be at the forefront of all of these automakers' minds as they try and have these connected cars. On the flip side, cryptocurrency is really interesting because it creates a huge demand for energy. And solar energy is rapidly becoming one of the cheapest forms of energy on the entire planet. Tesla has huge exposure to that with its battery division and with its solar division. So I think, on the flip side, cryptocurrencies is a really interesting angle and bull case for Tesla energy. So that's sort of another part of the Tesla bull thesis I think is really interesting.
Do you put price targets on the stocks that you follow?
Never, and I don't like to say where I think Tesla stock is going, but I did prepare something for this segment because I know you guys always ask. I do think the company, if they can execute on Model 3, is going to be worth at least $400 per share by the end of this year. And that's not to say I think the stock's going there, but that's what I think it's worth. I mean, Model S and X are going to do about 10 million in revenue run rate. Energy is about 2 billion. Model 3 by the end of the year will be about 20 billion. That's 32 billion revenue run rate for a 70 billion market cap at 400 per share. Little under 2.5 times sales. I think that's really cheap and a fair price for Tesla. You add on Model Y, Tesla Semi, that'll get them to 70 billion aggregate in a couple years. So then I think we see them turn into Amazon 2.0 kind of. And sorry.
Amazon 2.0. Okay, we're gonna have to bring you back for that conversation, but very
Yes.
quickly, how do you measure execution? Is it deliveries on time?
No, it's total deliveries and growth year over year, annual deliveries and watching them grow. And I think Tesla will keep killing it there.
So that goes into the $400 price target by end of the year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to be watching that closely. Thank you so much for joining us, as always. It's Galileo Russell, author at Seeking Alpha, with his take on Tesla. For more information on Seeking Alpha's marketplace, visit seekingalpha.com/marketplace.